So one thing I hadn't considered in this new setup I mean new as in when we moved into the house, not this second theater build, is heat generation of the receiver. Noticed in here the other day, now, we played a few movies and I've been playing a lot of music, but I was in here doing a setup and I opened the door and oh my God, it's hot. Now my previous setup, everything was on open glass racks, so I've never had to think about the heat before, but in here, it builds up, and it builds up pretty darn quickly. Now, I don't have anything on top of this, but just opening the door and putting your hand in here, it's pouring out. And there's not much of an air gap here, so it's not letting any air in or out. And there's no active cooling on the receiver, so it's all passive from the front, back, or not front, side, top, and rear vents. Obviously, that's not ideal. Now, I considered just taking the back off the unit. Unfortunately, that would render this whole thing very unstable. It is part of the structure here. This is an IKEA little cabinet, and it's great when it's built correctly. Now, I do have a small cutout. I can't see it, but it's right behind the receiver where the HDMIs come out because the receiver is actually too large to fit in here otherwise. So I've got to have the wires actually poking out through the back just to fit. So my thought is cut a big hole and install a cooling fan or two, but obviously noise is the number one issue. The other is how to power it. There is no 12-volt slave circuit on this receiver. On older generations, back when it was kind of common before the invent of smart devices and connected devices, you would daisy chain your equipment basically. So maybe you had a preamp or an EQ or whatever else you had in the loop, it would be powered through your receiver. So you would plug things into the back here. Well, now they do it with what's called a trigger circuit. There's a little, it's a 3.5 mil, 12 volt, but very low amperage trigger port in the back. And that just basically acts as like a relay into other equipment. Even that's very uncommon to use these days. But that's too low power. The 12 volt rail is fine, but the amperage of it is too low to power a fan. Wouldn't want to do that. So I'm going to just power off electric and probably use some kind of phone charger or wall wart and just power it that way. And I'll plug it into a smart plug and then have it turn on when my entertainment system turns on. And as long as it's quiet, that should work just fine. So we've got plenty of room to cut. It's easy enough to cut that with a utility knife or an X-Acto knife. You just make shallow cuts, and after a few, it trims no problem. Now we have to figure out the hardware. I've got a pretty large stock of hardware that I can use. My first thought was a silent case fan, something that I use on my coolers. I know I've got one around here somewhere. My radiators on my computers. Yep, like this one here. Now the problem is these are really made for pressure more than volume. They are inside a case and they push or pull through radiator fins, and they have to move air hard, but not necessarily fast. It is silent though, so I mean it is usable. We could use it. It's a 140 mil fan. My other option, I think, is a better one though. I have a huge 200 mil fan here. And again, it is near silent, although I don't remember what it sounds like at full speed. These are 12 volt fans, and this one, originally I had in the case here. And I put a different one in. I can't remember why now. If it was for the noise, which I think it was, at the particular speed I wanted to run it, I think maybe it was for flow. I don't remember, but I haven't used this since I got the case. So it's going to be an experiment to see what speed it's going to work for our noise concerns. Now, we don't need a ton of speed out of this. This is a huge fan, and it very easily moves a lot of air. There's not that much heat in there. As long as we can have a nice steady flow, that's going to work for us. So what do we do to power this? This is obviously made for a computer. We've got 3 wires here, a positive, a negative, and a signal source, and that's for varying the speed. This is a 3-wire. There are 4-wire variants also. It doesn't matter which one you have because we're just going to be using 2 of them, the positive and the negative. If you look at the little prongs and face them up, going from the right, the second one is positive, the third one is negative. They also may be colored on yours, might be yellow, red, and black. And then if you have a 4-wire version, that'll be over here. And I believe that's a blue, not sure, I can't remember. But anyway, we're just using these last 2 here, the positive and negative. And we're gonna power this with a power adapter. Now, with a fan, just plugging it direct, you vary the speed by varying the voltage. This is, I believe, off of an old external hard drive. This one is 12 volts. Output is 12 volts and 1.5 amps. Virtually any kind of power transformer. These are DC transformers. They plug into AC and they output DC. And virtually any of them are going to work for the fan because it's a low current device. It doesn't need a lot of amperage. So what we're concerned with is the voltage. 12 volts is full speed, meaning this will turn at its full rated RPM. It's probably somewhere around 800, 900, somewhere around there. And I know at full speed you can hear it. I mean, it's not terribly noisy, but you can hear it. We don't want that. So we don't want anything direct like this that's outputting a full 12 volts. So next we can choose some other type of wall wart. From 12 volts going down, you're going to go into these type, which have a USB type output. You typically, I mean, there are some devices that use less than 12 volts with a direct plug, but that's not too common. Usually if a direct plug is on the wire, it's going to be a 12 volt. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it's typical. And with these USB types, they will vary. They can go down to 1 volt. They can go up to 12. I mean, it really depends on what device it was designed for. This was, I believe, for an old Android phone, or not so old, just an older. And this is what's called an adaptive or quick charge unit, meaning it senses the load. It's designed for larger phones that can charge at faster rates if it supports the charge. And this says if it detects a man, my eyes are going bad, 1.67 amps, it'll charge at 9 volts, or a 2 amp load at 5 volts. So we know the fan is not going to draw 2 amps. So this would be outputting 9 volts. Still on the fast side, that's still going to be, 5.5, 600 RPM. I know I'm probably going to hear that too. So got a couple more here. I have a virtually endless supply of electronics, bits and bobs and wires and all kinds of good stuff. So I just ran through my drawer and see what we've got here. Now this one is outputting 5 volts at 3/4 of an amp. Okay. 5 volts is good. That's under half, probably 400-ish RPM. That would probably work fine. And this one is, where is it? Come on, eyes, focus. I'm gonna need readers pretty soon. I got LASIK, but they told me this day would come. 5 volts at 1 amp. Okay, so these are gonna output both at the same 5 volts. It's gonna run, they're both gonna run the fan at the same speed. So I like this one better because it goes with my VR set. So we won't use that. And we don't need any kind of special amperage. So 3/4 of an amp, absolutely the same performance. And what's this one? An old headset. Definitely won't ever be using this again. Okay, so now we just need a cable and just grabbing an old USB cheap knockoff Lightning cable. That'll work fine. I'm gonna chop this cable open. Hopefully we just see probably 6 wires in here, and 2 of them will probably be red and black, matching the plug, and we can just quickly test that with a multimeter or just connect it to the fan and see if we hear something. If it's quiet enough, then we're golden. If not, I can continue to look for a lower voltage wall wart, or we could install a resistor just to dial down the power. We'll see how it goes with 5 volts. So I think it'll be quiet enough. It doesn't need to be silent, just needs to be quiet enough where stuck behind the cabinet, I would never hear it playing music or a movie, which probably doesn't take much. All right, let's open this up and see what kind of wires we have inside. So just quickly testing the wires, I've got the wall wart plugged in under the desk. The bare metal that I thought was shielding was not shielding, that is the ground. So we've got 5 volts connecting to the red and that bare wire, so I'm just gonna go ahead and snip it back again and trim off the green and the white, and then we'll use the bare and the red to connect up directly to the fan wires. Quickly wire together. Now for a sound check. 100% silent and moving a good bit of air. Okay, that will work absolutely perfectly. Now I just have to run to the store, get a smart plug, cut my hole, screw the fan, and plug it in.
Luke, I am your father.
So I got 3 plugs here to choose from. This Mercury Smart Wi-Fi plug. That one looks suspiciously incompatible. Doesn't say anything about Alexa. That might just be one that works with the built-in app. These 2 here are more mainstream, and I already have a Wemo Mini that's controlling our Christmas tree. So I know that works with Alexa. The Harmony Hub, which is what I want everything to go through, unfortunately doesn't directly control any of these, but I think I can get it to work. If not directly through Alexa, then certainly through my Samsung Smart Things. I mean, worst case scenario, I could use if then that. I don't think I have to, but a little steep at $30, but oh well. It's between the holidays, so I don't feel like waiting.
You know what? Better idea. Use the one I have on the tree just as proof of concept, get it working, order one online, have it in a couple days. It's not going to blow itself up in a couple days. Much better. I can get those for probably half price on Amazon. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. Where is my Harmony Hub? Let's fire this up. You know, the only complaint I have with the Harmony is it takes a while to do things just to get through the app because it does a lot of syncing and checking. All right, so here on Activities, these are the 2 main screens. Activities are what you've got programmed, basically macros. Different smart devices call macros different things. Harmony calls it Activities. So I have one called Watch TV. Whoops. I meant to edit it. It's actually running it. So we'll wait a second for it to turn on everything in the living room. Okay, get out of that. Turn that back off. Anyway, smart devices call macros different things. A couple of them call them macros. Wink calls them robots. Samsung calls them, can't even remember now. Anyway, they're called scenes, routines, all kinds of different things. So I'm going to click Edit Activities here, and you can see what I have in Watch TV. And this is what it does. And this is what's really cool about Harmony. You can configure absolutely everything possible about every device you add to it. So I've got my TV, the Apple TV, and the receiver in the system. So it takes over as all 3 remotes, and you can sequence absolutely anything about them. So you've got the start sequence and the end sequence. That's basically turning off and turning on. What do you want it to do? If I edit the start sequence, you can see I've got power on the TV, power on the receiver, power on the Apple TV. On the receiver, then set it to scene 1, which sets the input and the DSP parameters and sets it up the way I want it for watching movies. You know, basically like car seat memory. And then optional at the bottom there is starting channel, and that's if you need to set a specific channel on your TV. Mine doesn't, so it's set to null. And that's it. That's all the starting sequence is. The end sequence is just turn everything off. Pretty simple. So that's pretty much it. And now customize remote is where you can customize every key on the remote for every state. So for example, after I turn everything on, I have the remote set So the OK and the direction buttons are controlling the Apple TV, just like I would be holding the Apple TV buttons. However, the volume buttons on the Harmony remote are controlling the receiver, because that's what's controlling the volume. So on and so forth. So you can customize any button in any state. Pretty cool, and it works absolutely flawlessly. Unlike previous versions of the Harmony system, this one is just fantastic. Okay, so what I want to do here is add a step. I want to turn on the fan in this start sequence. So after everything is done here, or at some point, doesn't really matter, I want to turn on the fan. Well, we need to add the fan into the system, because right now only those 3 devices are in here, and that's all the Harmony knows exists in the universe. So we need to go back out to devices, and you can see what I've got in there. I need to edit devices, and then we can add the device. Okay, so here we have entertainment device, home control, computer, and auto scan for Wi-Fi devices. Now this is a Wi-Fi plug, so I'm going to do that and see if it just picks it up. That would be really cool. This can be pretty slow. It's scanning the entire house and the entire Wi-Fi network and looking for anything that's sending out a signal that says I am a smart device and I'm on the Wi-Fi protocol. Remember, smart home devices use a lot of different protocols. Wi-Fi is just one of them, and it's actually not that popular. So it's just finding my Lutron Smart Bridge, which is controlling all the fans and dimmers and light switches in the house. So it's controlling my home lighting, with the exception of the IKEA cabinet lights. We don't need it to control this, so I'm going to go back. So I guess what that really means is, that was a delay. I actually hit back about a second before it did it. Edit devices again, add device. So I guess scan for Wi-Fi devices really means scan for Wi-Fi devices that natively work with the Harmony hub, which you can see is just Lutron. Not that useful. We don't need it to control my computer. Entertainment device up at the top, that is just infrared. Basically, that's asking you to take the place of one of your remote controls. Okay, your cable box, your DVD player, CD player, TV, VCR, whatever works with an old school infrared remote, this can duplicate. So you put in your manufacturer's name and model number, and it's got all those codes. You remember back in the day, you bought a universal remote and it came with a big book of code numbers? Well, that's what that is. We don't want that. So home control, I'm hoping this is going to be more useful. Okay, so here's a bigger list of things that it works with natively. Philips Hue, those are the light bulbs. I don't need to control any of my light bulbs, not that I have any Philips Hues. Nest, I don't need to control the thermostat. All of these things I have, but they are controlled through Alexa, so I don't need Harmony to do anything like that. Okay, so smart things. This is specifically why I have a Smart Things hub, for just such occasions as I need to control something weird. Right now, the only thing I'm doing with it is controlling my front door lock. Everything else is natively controlled through Alexa, which is really cool. But here's a case where it's going to come in handy. So you can see it controls all these different things, basically just core house stuff. The Harmony Hub is kind of designed to take the place of Alexa if you don't need voice control, and you can control things through the remote control. Kind of old school, not something I know anyone does. So we're going to go Smart Things. And okay, so I need to sign in. This is going to link my account between Harmony and Samsung so that they can talk to each other. Be right back. So I signed into my Samsung account, and Smart Things sees the plug, and I authorized it to control it. And yes, I've named it Tree. I'm going to click on Tree. I guess that's it. Okay, next. Found one device. Indicate if they're controlling lights or plugs. It is a plug. Okay, next. Not the most intuitive screen there. Okay, cool. So now in Harmony, I can control the tree plug. So now, going back to activities, I can edit the start sequence, add a step, and I want to turn on the tree. So device, hopefully it finds, okay, it's not in there. Did I not do that right? Let's go back to devices. Maybe I didn't complete the add sequence. Yeah, this Harmony app is not great. Okay, it's in there. Plug, tree. Interesting. Let's try. I wonder if I have to start the whole thing over again. I want to say I had to do that once before. Add a step. Device. See, I should see tree in this list, and it's not there. And I want to say the last time this happened, I had to start a whole new sequence before it would even see the new device to use. I couldn't. Wait a minute. Edit home control. That looks new. Aha. Select device I want to include. Boy, is that unintuitive. Yes, I want to start tree. I want it to be in the on position. When to adjust. No, I don't want. What is this? Okay, did it edit? Tree on. Okay. So I guess add a step and edit home control are essentially doing the same thing. That's just pretty redundant code writing right there. That should be add a step. Okay, so we got it in the start sequence. Now we need to add it to the end sequence and turn it off. Yep, tree, and we want it to be off. Okay. Should save it. All right. Let's test it. So the main reason I want to do it through the Harmony Hub, I could have done it through Alexa or directly through the Samsung Smart Things, is now it's at the end of the chain. Now anything I've done with the TV...
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
Oops, I said her name. Anything I've done in the routine, it's automatically going to pick up. So I don't have to re-edit the movie time routine or anything like that. So I can say, hopefully this works. The tree should come on. We'll pretend the tree's the fan. Alexa, turn on the TV. Haha. Awesome. All right, now to find a deal on one of those plugs. All right, I found a bunch of plugs for 10 to 15 bucks. I found the Wemo. It's unfortunately not on sale for single right now. They're 25 bucks. I mean, they're better than 30, but I'm gonna go with the Wemo because this is very important. It's a known good. The app works well. The firmware updates are kept up to date. I've already got one, so I already know it works. There's nothing wrong with it. You don't know about the other ones. So it's worth, $7 to not have any problems. Just to me. Morning, guys. So I'm on a whopping 2 hours of sleep. Wife woke me up before she left, and nope, not going back to sleep. So, a couple exciting things this morning. First of all, last night, just after I cut off the video, I decided to cancel that Amazon order. I'm just going to run over to Walmart and pay the extra $5 just to get that switch today rather than waiting an extra 2 or 3 days. Things are backed up now for the holidays, so their prime shipping doesn't really guarantee you 2 days shipping right now. And I'd rather not wait. Just want to get this project done, but that's not the exciting part. So the center channel for the home theater was the only part I didn't get any kind of good deal on. In fact, I didn't get any deal at all. It wasn't on sale. Like I said in the store, the center channels just never go on sale. Until today. Since Black Friday, Klipsch has been running a series of different sales from 25 to 50% off, and they've been rotating it every couple weeks on what products it covers. And today, for the first time ever I've seen, well, yeah, first time ever because it's a brand new center channel, it's on sale. It hasn't been on sale until today since Black Friday. And that brings me to some tips. Alexa, turn on the living room lights. On getting good deals on stuff. This is my school of thought. All right, number one, I have just as much fun, if not more, during the planning period and buying stuff. You know, like when I do a project like this. The receiver, the Apple TV, the cables, the speakers, the TV, I mean, everything. I plan it out. And you can do it a number of ways. Now, I know some people that will buy things just because it's a great deal. Now, I could have gotten an entire theater for probably a quarter or half of what I paid. There have been some absolutely insane deals on stuff this year since Black Friday, but it wouldn't have been exactly what I wanted. And that's a compromise I don't make. I will not get something if it's not exactly going to fit my needs. I got the exact models of everything that I wanted. Now here's the key to getting a good deal on this stuff. You gotta wait. You have to have some patience. And I waited, and I could have bought that TV anytime from the moment I wanted it, but I waited knowing that eventually I'd catch a sale. And I don't remember what day it was. I think it was the day after Black Friday. It finally went on sale at Costco. And then I caught a deal on signing up for a new membership at Costco and got $45 off. So, I mean, that was on top of the sale I got on the TV. And that's how I do things. I stack deals and I look for the best combinations and ways to save money on exactly what I want. And I knew that Klipsch had been running all kinds of good sales on their products. And they had these down at their lowest point. They're back on sale today under another round with that center channel, but they're not as low. They're another 25% higher. So, you know, I knew that they were not going to be lower than when they were, so I jumped on them at the time. And that's the other thing. You have to be able to jump on a deal exactly when it presents itself. And I know that can be problematic. You know, a lot of times you just don't have the cash at the time of the great sale. If I didn't have the cash for these speakers right then when they were on sale, you know, maybe I would have had to buy them now and pay more, but you know, that's part of the hunt. So that's the tip, is have patience. Do your research. That's very important. Look for other ways of saving money on stuff like the Costco sign-up deal, or sometimes there's cash backs. Go on sites like Ebates and make sure that you can get all the rewards you can. If you've got a credit card with cash back, roll that in. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do, especially on big purchases, to save some money. And it does add up quickly. And like I said earlier, make sure that you sign up for all your reward memberships, because that can help you out in the future. Like is right now with that center channel, I'm gonna save another $90. Now, that's not specifically because I'm an elite member. Like I said, it just happens to be under the normal time frame. But if it had been another week, you know, I would have been out of luck if I wasn't on the elite status. So the other exciting thing is I found a perfect table. IKEA calls them console tables, and there's one under the LAC series that'll fit perfectly. It's the same black brown that's all the other, or most of the other furniture that we got. Not this brown, an actual black brown like the entertainment cabinet. And it's just over 2 feet high. Comes right to about here. It's specifically made to go behind the couch. It's 55 inches long, so it'll come to just about here. And that's absolutely perfect for what we want. I'll put it back towards the wall, and then I'll look for smaller plants. They've got a pretty good selection there at IKEA of decent looking smaller plants. I'm not too fond of most of their large ones. They had one that looked okay. It's more of a tree. It's not very Florida-like, but it did look okay. But anyway, we don't need to get those. So now I can get the less expensive little potted ones. And I do have two that I know I want to get because I really like the look of them. And we have a couple in the guest bathroom. Alexa, turn on the guest bathroom light. I think that's what I named it. These here. I think I said her name too fast. So those look real nice, and we got one there. So definitely a couple more of those, and then something, some more stuff in between, and the wife can have fun decorating that. I don't really care what goes there. But it's only $80 for the table, so that's a steal. I could have sworn IKEA had breakfast specials and opened early, but no. Well, it's 9:15, and they don't open till 10. So I'm gonna go down the street just here on 60 to a Best Buy and get my receipt, or get my refund. And then I'll come back here and get the table and look at plants. While I'm here, let's check out some cool speakers. Just looking. So this is the one I was originally considering, the 82 6 series from Samsung. Yeah, that is just ridiculously huge. I can't convey how big this thing is in person, but I mean, that would just dwarf the entire width of the wall. That would look really dumb. Plus it would be extra tall. This thing is, let's see, I'm 6'2", and this is almost chest level on the ground. Crazy. I'm always impressed by these Martin Logans. What you see is the speaker. It's a transparent piece of film. The whole thing is speaker. What it gives you is a couple things. An incredible sense of presence, like the person is absolutely in front of you. I mean, 100% convincing image. And a real depth to the soundstage. You can tell where people are positioned front and back extremely easily. Downside, tiny sweet spot. You sit down and you have about 3 inches one way or the other and the image breaks. But when you're in the sweet spot, absolutely phenomenal sound. You can only get this out of this type of speaker. It's projecting the sound forward and back off the wall and to you. And it's incredibly tall. There's no separate drivers. It's just one big wall of sound hitting you. So right next to Best Buy is Michael's. Let's go check out their plants. Well, crap. Either they moved out their stock for the Christmas stuff, or this store doesn't have any of the pre-done ones, just all the build your own. And I don't have any skill to do that. Okay, well, I was right. It actually does open early for breakfast before the store. Didn't know that. Probably never come here again for it. Oh, and just FYI, skip the free coffee. It is the worst coffee in the freaking world. No joke. All right, got the table and an arrangement I think I'm happy with. I'm gonna flank the table with these grasses here, then put the 2 flowers in next, and then a tri-arrangement here of these ferns and whatever this is kind of clumped together with a mix of baskets and white ceramics to go in them. Should cover it nicely, not be packed together, but no big gaps. With the Best Buy refund, should be like $100. What do you do? Back home we go. So my friend Lovelace is buying my whole old theater system. He already got my TV and receiver. I think I showed that in a previous video. And I talked him into all my speakers and sub, and he's buying the same rear surrounds I have. Since those are new, I don't need to sell those. I can't get this open. So I started collecting the stuff we need, and I'm gonna build him an awesome home theater in his house that he is renovating. He's got the living room done. It's I believe he said 27 by 15. Unfortunately, it's gonna be widthwise, so same layout basically as mine, but at least we know how to deal with that, so it's not a huge deal. It can still sound awesome as long as you put things in the right positions. Wow, is this sticky. But anyway, one of the things I started to get here was a new high quality sub cable for him. Since mine was number one, not high quality, and number two, butchered. During the experimentation of hooking my system up here before I went wireless, I used that cable to create my own. And this should be, reveal, should be the cable. I believe I got a 12 or a 15, got a 15. And it's a dual shielded from Media Bridge. Got very good reviews. And of course, nothing too expensive because it's only a single cable you need. I am not left-handed. Let's see what it looks like. Hold on. Okay. There we go. Oh, that feels nice. That is quite thick. A lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. That's what she said. Very nice. No complaints with the looks or construction of that whatsoever. Very heavy duty, so should be good no matter what kind of run we need to do. I already know that we're not going to be running anything through the walls and ceiling. The rear surrounds I might leave up to him. He may run that through the ceiling. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking we're going to be running just speaker wire under the carpet and around the perimeter. But this will allow us to put the sub anywhere in the room that we need to, since we have no idea until we get the sub in there where it needs to be placed exactly. But this will allow it to go anywhere, at least on the main wall or side walls, without any problem. Cool. Now, unlike all the other pieces that we got from IKEA, remember, if you've watched the Guy Stuff series on home renovations, you saw me talk about how IKEA has tiers of products. You have things like this, which are truly furniture grade, solid wood, come completely assembled, wooden crated, that kind of thing, or their solid wood furniture series, like the Hemnes and there, or our dining room, or our bar stools, or our kitchen table. These are solid wood pieces, extremely heavy. Furniture grade, normal furniture store stuff. You just happen to put some of it together. Couch also, one piece, no assembly, solid as a rock, comes crated. This is your typical IKEA stuff. This is obviously going very out of sight. I don't care. I didn't want to spend a lot of money because all this really is a platform. Not even really going to see most of this, but here's your typical IKEA construction. All these pieces are hollow and they're press board, sides, and veneer. And that's really about it. I mean, it's very, very flimsy stuff. You don't want to put anything heavy on it. It wouldn't, survive being chipped on a hard floor or anything like that. And it's very lightweight and very inexpensive, $79. And you do get a lot for your money, but just be aware, it's not anything like their upper tier stuff. It is very solid though, because these pieces are very physically thick. And we do have these double rows here. Some tables, if you just have the legs attaching to them, they'll have a sway to it. The entertainment rack is actually a good example. This is kind of in the middle. This is not high quality furniture, but it's not the press board. These are solid wood pieces. They're not hollow, but it's got movement to it. There's no bracing or anything for the sides, the tops and the bottom, besides the press board backing. So, not a big deal. Definitely worth the money, and it will do the job. But be aware of it. If you're shopping at IKEA, go there. If you're looking for something, go there. Sit on it. Feel it. Be a little rough with it, and make sure that it's going to last. If you're getting something cheap for a kid or college student or whatever, they're cheap stuff, absolutely fine. It's going to last a couple years. But if you're looking for stuff like we are to last a long time, like our entire bedroom set, it's a mess right now, but who cares? We've got the matching 2 dressers, nightstands, and they're really heavy. And they're going to last a long time until we're sick of looking at them. All right, let's get this set up. So that's what I had in my head, and nope, too symmetrical. First impression, don't even have to think about it. Let's mix it up. That's a little better. It's still not right. Too busy. I wonder what it would look like without the flowers. I really don't want to do something asymmetrical, but I think it needs more space. I think it's too crowded with the dead space. If I had two big plants here, I think it would work better, but she doesn't want big plants here, so got to thin that out a little bit. Next. That's not too bad for the arrangement, but it's too plain. Just green things sitting there. Doesn't look good. Now I'm double thinking the white vases. Wonder how just the plain black ones would look in the middle. Better. Definitely better. Let's try 3 baskets. Could go either way. I like the basket for the color, but I also like the black for the lack of color, and the white becomes the color. The baskets draw your eye to those plants, where without, your eye is drawn more to the picture. Okay, so I like the black better. Let's see if we can incorporate flowers. I stood them up. I didn't like them drooped. And go back to black. So no matter where I stick the flowers, that's immediately where my eyes go. And I don't like it. It tries too hard to frame. And if I put them in the center, it just looks awkward. They're not working with those plants. Okay, idea. Big plants on the floor. I don't think they're going to be tall enough to work. I think the flowers are going to look awkwardly tall. But let's try. That is not half bad. It still needs something, but I'm at the end. You know, I've got an eye for what looks good and what doesn't. And I can sometimes tell you why. But when it comes to actually creating the design, nope, never been that kind of artist. So this is as far as my skills go. I'm no interior decorator. But it looks okay. We'll see what she thinks. She might have an idea, or might have a friend with an idea. And we'll go from there. Okay. Now let's see about cutting an access hole and getting our cooling fan working. Oh crap, I forgot to go to Walmart. Gotta go to Walmart, get that switch. Well, this wasn't supposed to be here until tomorrow. Good God, that's a big sub. Wow. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. It's almost waist high. Sweet. Okay, let's get it in somehow. Okay, got the new one all tuned in. Actually, it wasn't that hard. Spot stays the same no matter pretty much what sub you're putting in there. The room is the room. Just had to run the auto setup again and set levels, tune it in by ear real quick to 2-channel, and bada bing bada boom. The few test tracks I've got make that really simple, and I know it works. So, final verdict. First of all, size difference. I'll stack them in a second, but mildly disappointed, but not because it's a bad sub, because I had bigger expectations. This is simply testament to how good that clip sub is. The overall sound is really, really similar. I can hear, and more importantly, feel the extra octave in the 20s that this one is very cleanly putting out. The specs on this equal to equal go down just into the teens, whereas this one, they say 29, I believe mid-30s. But the sound between 30 and 80, which I haven't cut off at, is virtually identical. I mean, super tight and clean. Maybe a little tiny bit more punch. There is a track, let me get it real quick. Nils Lofgren's drum and bass and drum intro. There's several points in it where he's playing the bass, and I mean it's a very clear test of what goes into the 20s. But you can hear the attack on the notes, the palpable plucking of the strings, a little bit easier with this. Everything being equal, the balance between the subs and the mains, it's subtle. I mean, it's not real dramatic or anything. The one thing that is selling me on it, and I'm glad I got it, is this has a slightly higher clip level. There's not that much power difference between these, and this is, even though it's an SVS sub, it's a great sub, great company. It is their fairly low-end model. I mean, it's still a very, very good sub. It's not a low-end sub, but in the line of SVS, it's a low-end model. So it's only putting out 400 watts RMS. They have subs that do 3 times that. So that's why I'm saying only 400. Whereas that one was putting, I believe, 250. So you'd think that's like a huge difference, but when you get up into the upper levels, it takes a lot to make a little difference. So that 150 watts isn't that great of a difference. It's just the little extra edge. But I did push it to the limit, and there were certainly quite a few movies where I would crank it, like, beyond theater levels, and that would clip pretty easily, especially movies like Gravity, for example. Tons of bass excursion in Gravity, and this one's coping much better. It's still, I found the point pretty easily. It's only a 12-inch. It's not like they're Monster 16. And there's speakers with 15 and 16-inch drivers. So, 12's very, very decent. Certainly enough for the room. But don't expect it to be like a huge, it's a monster size, but not like chest-splitting bass. Not like the true big boys that cost a couple grand. But happy enough. It was an absolute steal at $500. So happy I got it. But man, if you're coming from a decent sub like this Klipsch, don't expect musically a big difference. That's all I'm getting. But still very happy. And this track here, great test track for your sub. Not only to test it, just to find its excursion limits and everything, but to balance it in with your mains, because it'll bring out any kind of boominess or peakiness. And that did have slightly peaky bass, with the lower, for that one it would have been, low 30s bass notes. And this is very flat, very neutral. And it just sounds like a nice sound stage. But there you go. So here's the size comparison. You can see it adds quite a bit in all dimensions. This is a metal grill over the front. You can see the drivers here. Driver, I should say. It makes the driver look small because the box is so huge. But that is a little difficult to get this off. It really likes to stick. It is a 12-inch driver. It looks tiny. It looks like a little 8. But nope, that is just a monstrously huge port. Let me set that down. Yeah, that's a large port. Okay, now to get this fan in, go back and get the switch, and finally wrap up the theater. So I want it placed somewhere over on this side. I don't want to cross that seam because I think this will just kind of start to split in half. I've just got that screw in there for vibration control, just keeps it tight in the slot. This is just dropped in, and like I said, it's fairly structural. It's pretty easy to cut through this stuff. It's just like a fiber board. You can see I had to make space because the new receiver is too big to fit in there, so the HDMIs have to poke out the back. And then of course I got all the speaker wires coming through there. Definitely not an ideal, home theater type rack, but good enough for just what I have in there. Just the receiver and the Harmony, the Apple TV, power, and some wires stuffed in. And you don't see it, so it works. So I'm gonna put it right about here, just leave a little bit of gap on the sides. And I'm just gonna use utility knife
make a lot of shallow cuts and make a rough opening. I am going to push the air in because I won't have a perfect seal. So if I flipped it and it's trying to suck the air out, it would be trying to suck all the air around this instead of completely out from the cabinet. So this way it'll blow all the air in and just come out the gaps on the door in the front. So we'll get this rough cut, and I just need to leave material to screw some screws in there. We'll route the wire through to the inside, plug it into the switch inside, and hope that'll do it. One hole cut. Okay, all mounted, ready for the switch. Well, this is driving me a little bonkers. The theory is sound. I've been playing around with this, trying to fix a problem here. What I didn't count on was this backing board acting as a sounding board, just like a guitar. There's an inaudible vibration in the fan itself. There's no fault with it. You can't feel or hear anything just holding the fan. But as soon as you make any physical contact with the board, doesn't matter if I'm floating it on tape, if I screw it in, if I crank it down, if I've got it loose, if I got one screw, 2, 3, or 4, just any physical contact, even just holding the fan and just barely touching this, it is so loud. I mean, if the room is silent or if there's a quiet passage. So obviously that's no good. It amazingly does seal, no matter how I mount it, very well. So I can use a pull design, which is more efficient. It'll pull the hot air out, which is right here at the top. So that's cool. I wasn't sure how much of a gap I could get, but it seals very well. Luckily, I cut it at a close enough diameter where there's not a lot of turbulence at the end of the blades. Works just fine. But, it just may be the characteristics of this physical example of the fan. You can't hear anything even when you mount it in a computer case. So I've got 2 of them, luckily, and they are identical. So I'll rewire this one into the circuit and see if it does the same thing. If it does, I'm gonna have to come up with something completely different. Maybe somehow bracing this backing board. I've tried, really pushing this down both ways from the inside and outside here to try to see if I can steady it. Nothing I do to any spot on this makes a difference. So it's not like it's contacting anything. I've got all the stuff pushed forward. There's nothing making contact with the board on the inside, no wires, not the shelf, no equipment or anything like that. So it is just the harmonics of the board. And you can't even feel it when it's running. You put your finger on it, it feels completely solid. But you can hear it. I've even tried isolating it and putting felt all around in between. Didn't do a thing. I thought for sure the tape would help because it's pretty squishy. Nope, didn't make a bit of difference. So, I guess another thing I could do is kind of hang it, screw into the top here and completely separate it, hang it, and then just use tape just to seal it, kind of like a really short tube. I think that would work. You can't see it, so I don't care if it's ghetto, which definitely that would qualify as ghetto. But that's the only thing I could think of. Just run a little bit of fishing line through the gap here and hang it off a screw, like that. And just position it over the hole and tape. So I'm hoping though, just switching the fan out will change the harmonics. But if it's characteristic of the fan design, it'll be the same. Let's find out. Well, I think I found the problem. Got it wired up real quick here to test. And look what happens when we apply power. It's off balance. Now just balancing right here on top of the cabinet, it's obvious. But when you hold it, you can't feel that. It sort of evens itself out at the higher speeds, but it's still technically moving. And that is what's translating into that. Well, what do you know? Absolutely silent. So even though it is off balance, you could obviously see that. This one is not translating into any harmonics. So it's probably just at a different frequency, and that other one
just didn't like the cabinet. Okay, I'm gonna run the wire back in, get everything plugged up, put the Wemo back on, put this back where it should be, and holy crap, that completes the theater. Okay, everything is now off. Everything is set up in Samsung, in Harmony, and Alexa is obviously working with the voice command. So now I got that tied into the start sequence. So anytime I use the macro turn on the TV, and anything that uses that macro, like movie time or good night, whatever you have running using that, that's now in the routine to come on and off with that routine. So I should be able to say, Alexa, turn on the TV. And it should power everything up. And it should have started that fan. All right, I can feel the nice air moving up here. That should really help. It'll draw air in here, exit the hot air. Heat management, let me tell you what, is the #1 killer of electronics. You have to keep your electronics cool, not just amplifiers, but anything like that. So if you've got a closed case like this, you're gonna have to do something about it. These amplifiers get extremely hot, or receivers. It's the amplifier circuits that are creating the heat. If you have certain brands, Onkyo, for example, any of their receivers, pretty much made in the last 5 or 6 years, have a huge heat problem. Even keeping them on an open rack, like I used to have, you need to add cooling. They make really slim, rack-sized coolers. They'll sit on top of it and just suck the air right out the top of it. If you don't do that, your HDMI control boards are likely to fail sooner than later. I mean, within months or a couple of years. Huge problem with certain brands. Yamaha doesn't have that problem, but if I were to keep it like this without any cooling, I would certainly have problems. So there you go, guys. This completes the theater. Oh, let me show you. This was the wife's design. So this is what we're sticking with. I think it looks great. She swapped out the flowers and swapped back in the white pots. So I think that gives it a nice kick there. It's symmetrical without looking staged. That's what the flowers were really bringing to it. It just looked too, something just wasn't right. The flowers just didn't go there. So we'll take those back, get our $50 back. Those are actually the most expensive part of this whole thing. Those and the basket pots. There we go. I think it looks great. Doesn't really do much for the sound in the living room, but it helps a little bit, especially being that stuff is right behind your head. It'll help a tiny bit with reflections, but I would have liked something a little taller. They do have these that are taller and they come up to about here, but she didn't want those. So, I mean, that's fine. I think this looks just great. Like I said, I was fine with nothing, but now we're both happy and it didn't cost a whole lot. So the theater is done. Got the SVS sub kick in, everything's tuned in. Absolutely love the sound of the horns. TV's done. Dropped, in position, everything's tuned. Now it's just enjoy it. Not sure what to move on to next. I need another project. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Oh man, this worked beautifully. I've just been cranking it for half an hour. Barely any heat.